about coming in with a happy face. I'm pretty real. Like, you know, if
Your
I'm in a
face
great mood,
seems happy.
yeah. Oh, well, it's just, like I'm always pretty happy, but when you get right down to it, like with today being what it is, it's like it's a bittersweet day, right? And that's kind of how I look at it. Now, again,
Yep.
it is what it is. I can't, and folks, if you're watching or listening to this, I can't talk about it yet and like fully honestly on the air. So this this feels like a cock tease. I'm sorry, but right. But the thing is, right. It's one of those situations where I'm proud of what I did, not the result I expected. Right. You never expect that kind of result, right?
You especially when you put your heart and soul into something, you know, and you have a quality standard for your work, you're assuming that it will make everybody happy.
Well, and that's that's just it. Like, and also it's understanding too. Like, and this is what I'm going to mention here is without giving anything really away, is when you are under contract with somebody, right? And this is something I took to heart even before I took the gig. Was this wasn't mine. This was me coming in to do a job. It doesn't make it any easier to know what happened, but at the same time, it's also very much like, okay, I knew this day was coming, because again, no relationship, no matter like no bit like not to sound like nihilistic, but no relationship lasts forever. And you recognize that, and you have to recognize that, and having that in your head at the start makes it easier when you know it's time for when things move on. That doesn't mean, like earlier this afternoon, I wasn't feeling a little down about this. Like, there was a bit of a bitter pill you had to swallow there,
right?
But it's not as bitter as if I was like, "This is mine," and you're taking. No, I don't have any of that. You just know that time comes and you gotta adjust.
Yep. And honestly, I think it goes to with any like contract and work. You can't stay somewhere, like it's not always, I don't say you can't, but it's not always beneficial for you to stay somewhere forever or for long periods of time. I mean, especially it's something that millennials are good at, but other like generations and like the whole idea that you should be somewhere for 2 years and then you should move on, and like that's how you move up in like the salary cap, because if you stay somewhere for longer than 2 years, you don't always get the opportunities you would get if you were like, okay, I've learned everything I can learn here, I've gotten the longevity, so they know I'm not a job hopper. But you know, that 2-year expiration date, it can sometimes be a detriment to you. So I guess it just depends on the industry and the situation, but you are absolutely allowed to feel however you want to feel.
Oh, no, I'm not. Like, there's going to be moments I'm going to, like, tomorrow will be a little bittersweet. Like, tomorrow is going to be very bittersweet. But at the same time, I've already in my head, this is just the way I'm going to be about this. It's about, finishing the job professionally at this point and being a professional the whole way. That's it. I'm not, I'm not going to be angry or bitter or how dare you. No, I don't. It's not worth it. Now it's about, okay, what's next? And also, I did something cool for a good chunk of time. I did something that I created something very, very cool that's going to carry on in some way or another. So I mean, I can't.
And you enjoyed it. You enjoyed doing it.
I enjoyed the challenge of it. And just being honest, I don't know. I do this for a second year. I would have done it for a second year. I don't know if I would have done it, because I'm just being honest. It wasn't that kind of thing. It was a different kind of challenge. And now it improves my resume, because now I can go to someone that wants to build a platform. And now I'm confident that I could actually literally tell someone, I can literally help you build your platform from the ground up.
Right.
Right. I know I can do that for anybody. Like, I can literally do that for anybody now. So maybe I should put myself into consulting and marketing. I don't know. I mean, that after doing what I've done, but it's just.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey,
everything. I did have one of the best pieces of advice that I was ever given in professional career was that every job that you have, whether they're related in the industry or not, is you accumulating tools for a toolbox.
Mhm.
And you never know when all of those tools together are going to give you a really unique position, because you have experience in this and that other thing, so that's really cool.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, my skills are transferable. Like, there's a lot I learned here that I could apply in all kinds of things. I also broke into the corporate world for the first time ever. And once you break in, it's easier the second, the third, the fourth times you want to do it. So it opened doors. Again. And folks, I can't connect the dots. I really want to, but I really can't connect the dots right now.
You've said everything you can say, I think.
Yeah. So if you can figure it out, good on you. If you can't, I'm not going to tell you. So that all said, I read a little announcement from Mr. Mickey that you got onto the National Enquirer. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So I have to be careful, also, because I can't give away what I talked about, but because it doesn't print for a few more weeks. But yeah, I just wrote a piece for the National Enquirer, and it was small, but it still was the National Enquirer. And I'm so excited. It's amazing for an indie author to have that opportunity to write for, like, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, tabloid in the world that sells like 4 million copies worldwide. And when you think about it, I believe, and I don't crucify me if I'm wrong in this, but I'm pretty sure that one mention of Chicken Soup for the Soul, that book that like hit, every home in, the world all at the same time, it was mentioned in the National Enquirer. It made that book a household staple. So just like being included and having that exposure it's incredible. I never would have imagined this opportunity, and I'm so grateful for it.
Rock star.
Right?
Nicole Fanning, rock star. That's awesome. No, it's all good. I'm no, honestly, like, from when we were last chatting, like, I enjoy chatting with you, and I'm happy you're seeing success. Yeah, happy you're seeing success, and like I said, and that's the who knows. Now you can actually put this in your bio. She has written for the National Enquirer.
Right?
Yeah, that's cool.
That was the moment that, like, once I had written the article and I had submitted the article, and I like sat at my desk and I was like, I get to add this to my resume, that I wrote for the National Enquirer. That I did that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I got some, like that's awesome. I mean, I've written for magazines, but nothing as cool as that. Like, you got me beat. Thank
you.
Yeah.
I'm just stunned. I'm.
Well, hey, I mean, if that's not a confidence boost, I don't know what is.
Huge.
Because honestly,
boost.
Well, no, because I say this, and I do mean this. I no longer care about awards, but it's always nice to know where you. Like I said, there's a little pride that you can see what your work can do and accomplish in certain platforms and environments. You can literally see it. And once you see it, you know you can do it. It's not even a question anymore. It's just like,
Yeah, it's a feeling of like, okay, I've done so many. When I look back on like the last year of my life, and I think like in the last year, I have published not one, but 2 books. I have a 3rd nearly written. I've been on national syndicated TV and radio stations talking about those books, and now I have written for the National Enquirer. That alone will conquer any imposter syndrome that kicks in for me, it kicks in nightly at about 1 a.m. That's like, you are a terrible writer. You should never write anything ever. Why did you even waste your time doing this? Every single night I have those thoughts. And
yeah, I have some good news and bad news. It might actually be a little worse now, because now it's like right.
That's true. It might actually be worse.
Yeah, because but here's why, and this
par for the course. I'm okay with that. I understand.
No, but here's the actual reason why. It has nothing to do with how good you are or anything like that. It's the expectations you've built for yourself. I can fucking get on the National Enquirer, right? How am I going to top that? Truth of the matter, right?
I have a whole list of how we top that. But
no, that's good. No, that's good. That's good. Right?
Yeah,
I put this out like that just so you understand. Like,
yeah.
Imposter syndrome comes from expectations. It doesn't come from fear of failure. Is a very different kind of imposter. The imposter shows up when you start seeing success. That's when the imposter starts showing up. So it's a fear of success thing, not a fear of failure.
Well,
right?
And it's also a feeling of like not deserving any success that you do have either. At least it is for me. I don't know if I would say that like my writing is the first thing that I've done that I've been like, okay, like I might be good at this. Like I might actually be good at this. But also any like accolades that I get from it or like feedback that I get from readers, like it's so important for me because it is what saves me when my brain starts to sabotage me and be like, oh, they're just being nice to you because they're your cousin's brother's friend, or they saw you on TikTok and thought you looked really nice, and so they decided to say something nice, and they're just being nice because they don't want to say anything bad, but like behind, like just the stupid stuff that my brain says to me is made up when I actually talk to readers that are like, wow, this was, your work changed me, or it helped me to see something in a different light. That it helps more than they would ever.
Oh yeah, no, it's true. Like I said this to actually a couple days. I was at a Starbucks, that moment of feeling sorry. I let myself feel sorry for myself for just a moment. And then this couple shows up and just starts talking. We just start talking because they want to write a book. And I give them all kinds of like little things and advice of what they should do to work to do this. And I feel better because now I'm doing something constructive that helps. And it helps my sanity kind of come back just a little bit. But the thing is, I said this to them, and this was this. You don't do this for the awards. You don't do this for that recognition is nice.
Yeah.
But it's not, I don't care about that. And I know it's going to sound weird to some people, but I don't. What I care about is if somebody comes up to me and say, hey, that Alice book you did, man, was awesome.
Right.
That means a lot more to me than it's cool that your peers recognize how good you are. It always is. It's even cooler when people just recognize how awesome you are.
Or like, even when I've had some people say that some of the concepts that I talk about in my books, or like how characters get over certain things, like especially in the second book, Ignite, she has a miscarriage after she's shot. Like she gets shot by the bad chick and she has miscarriage. And that is a huge moment in the book. It's like, the book, I like books that go 100 miles per hour, and both of my books go 100 miles per hour the whole time. That is the only moment in both books that everything comes to a full stop. And but how they heal from that situation, and how we address the grief and for like everything that everybody's going through has touched a lot of people, and they have reached out to me personally to just be like, wow, that I personally have had a miscarriage, and they're like, I can tell, like, I know that you're saying it from a place of reverence and respect and trying to give it some dignity, because it's 1 in every 4 women go through this, and we don't tend to see a lot of it in media, and we don't tend to see a lot of it because it's an uncomfortable topic. So I was really nervous putting it in the book, and I remember several times I debated taking it out. But in the end, I was like, no, it's pivotal for the story. It has to stay. But we are going to try to do it in the most respectful and honest and possible way that we can, and show people that, even if you're crawling forward an inch at a time, that's still you moving forward. So it ended up being something really like important. And like, to me, those are the moments that me as the author, like I end up sobbing my face off reading a comment from a reader, or, even talking to one. So it's really, really cool.
It's, okay. So I'm going to ask a really personal question. If you don't want to answer, just don't punch me. Okay.
Yeah, right through this, right for the screen.
You know, I see if anyone could, it would be you. So, and this because I don't know. I've never. Does it when you miscarried? Did you feel like there was something wrong with you when it happened?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me personally, and that's something that we address in the book is like she
Mhm.
talks about the different stages of grief. She talks about, you know, like at first she's in shock and then she's angry and then she, you know, she's trying to piece it together. She's feeling like there's something wrong with her, like if she hadn't been there, if she hadn't listened, if they had gone faster, like trying to leave the house, like all of the things that go through someone's brain, like, you know, it was such a split second thing that happened, like what if a split second would have stopped that from happening. um and like I think that's a reoccurring theme, especially with such a sensitive topic that happens to 1 in 4 women, because it happens inside you. I think that it has an effect on like you, like not just physically but mentally. And
Mhm.
you are becoming a mother, so you have this intrinsic sense of responsibility to this little thing, and suddenly, you know, it's gone, and you're kind of like, well, did I do like is this my fault? Like did I do something wrong? Like am I bad at this? Like it's just again, it's our brains playing mental mental gymnastics or sabotage on us, but it's tough. And that's also why I think it's important to talk about it even though it is uncomfortable. But so many women deal with all of those emotions and feelings silently
Mhm.
and never talk about that. And so I think that giving it a little bit of a spotlight and saying like, hey girl, we see you, um, was, you know, just giving
Mhm.
respect to something that is really important and devastating.
It's a terrifying world when we realize how unfair it really is. Like that's the thing. Like you have these moments, not even equating it to the same level of trauma. But I remember like when the night I went to I was finally the night before I went to the dentist, I cried. Not because I was because everything that happened to me and I was ready to let that all go. That night I cried because I felt like on some level that I let it happen. It wasn't really my fault. Some of it was my fault for sure. I'm not gonna say all of it wasn't. But what initially happened was just really, really, really a trying time in my life,
Right.
and I let that happen. There's like there was that little bit of this is my fault somehow in that moment. Um,
I think, well,
again,
because that makes sense.
yeah,
Right, like, to our brains, we tend to think of, okay, anything that happens to us, did we either put ourselves in that situation? Did we do something to make it happen? Because we can understand that. We can't always understand that there are outside forces or outside people or, you know, like that will send you into a whole different world of insecurity and chaos mentally. But um the idea that it's like somehow in our control is how we take ownership of it to some degree, like we're trying to like almost make it our fault so that we can understand it more.
mhm,
And that isn't always the case. Some things just aren't our fault, but it's harder to accept
yes.
that
Well,
something happened to you, you know, that it was outside of your control.
it's because it's humbling because here's the truly scary part, ladies and gentlemen, to this, right? As horrifying as that is, more could have happened.
Yep.
Again, one of the biggest things about grief in general is when you're grieving something or it doesn't matter what it is. At some point, there's a dawning. It's easy when we first feel grief, we tend to lash out at something, anything, because
Yep.
it's easier to understand a world in which there's a good guy, there's a bad guy, there's a right, there's a wrong.
Yep.
It's an easier world to understand. Sometimes, though, and in a case like this, especially, it may not have anything to do with any of those things. It could just simply be that unfair, terrible things can happen to anyone at any time for no good reason. That is, when you think about that, an absolutely terrifying
It's
thought.
absolutely terrifying. Right. It's
Yeah.
again, it's chaos, and it
Yeah.
reminds you that life is chaos. It's I had a aunt that I was very close to, that when she passed away, and I know when people say this phrase that I'm about to say, I know that people say it with the best of intention. So I'm not trying to crucify anyone who says this. But when someone says, you know, everything happens for a reason, or like it's all part of God's plan, like those phrases, when you hear them over and over and over, and you are, like looking at, my 14-year-old cousin who's missing her mother,
Mm-hmm.
and, wants her mom back, and is realizing she's not going to have her at homecoming and at her graduation. And like, it's hard, because you're like, okay, well, so then God planned for me to suffer? Like, why? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or the whole idea, like suffering making you stronger. And it's actually something I say in my book. Like, the paragraphs that are on this topic are, they're like the most real I can possibly be when it comes to grief, and talking about like those things that we've lost, that there's no explanation for. Um, I remember when I had this is not the same example, but I had a Pomeranian. My Pomeranian was my baby. And like, our family dogs had lived to be, 10 years old, 15 years old. One dog lived to be 19. So I'm thinking, okay, little dog, I'm going to have this little dog for at least 10 years. So when this little dog gets a very aggressive, very rare, like bone cancer that doesn't develop in a bone, it develops in a muscle at 4.5, I am completely shocked. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, like, again, is this my fault? Is this, I haven't given him like the best food. I haven't given him the best water. Like, we can fix this. We can put him on supplements. We can put him on a raw diet. We can do all this. And for 8 months, we tried. We did
Mm-hmm.
everything. We did the surgery. We did the chemo. We did everything we possibly could. And in the end, like, cancer still took him. And my brain couldn't make sense of that, because it was the first time that I had given everything I could possibly give. I had done everything. And like, I still was looking for a way to blame myself, because it just didn't make sense to me in that grief. And I think it's the only way that we know how to process something, is to put it on ourselves and make it our fault somehow, so that we can get past it. But
I think it goes both. There's two ways of doing it. Sometimes we
right,
internalize it to ourselves, or sometimes we project out into the world. Right?
right.
Sometimes we go one way or the other. Some people just attack. Some people just repel. So I had a very I had an epiphany about unfairness. It made it easier. It doesn't mean it made it perfect, but it made it easier. I realized, like, maybe like unfairness is, there's two sides to the coin of unfairness. We just mentioned a whole bunch of the negative stuff. I think one of the most interesting things about the unfairness of life, though, and this is in a good thing, it also means that everybody who is still here, in spite of all these terrible things that are happening around us, always get a second chance at something.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's the flip side to it. Like, if life was fair, most of us would be dead. I'm just being very blunt, because
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
most of us would be dead.
Yep.
So there is a mercy to it. And I know some people listen to that will go, hey, you don't know. It's like, no, I do. I know how it's like, how cruel life can be. It can be incredibly cruel. I think all of us in the last few years have understood just how cruel life absolutely can be.
Yeah. And it makes you appreciate the wins that you have too, when those moments happen.
No, it's just that, like, that's just it, right? Like, you can, again, but if you can accept that the world's unfair, and this is the hardest thing, if you can accept that the world is an unfair place, and that the only thing you can truly do is live in it and go through it every day, and hopefully, on some level, still believe in the magic of possibility, in spite of all the terrible things that may come, there's also as many myriad of wonderful things that can come as well. So,
Absolutely.
like, yeah, if you can do that, you can deal with grief. But that doesn't mean that in the moment it doesn't suck. because we all
Right.
grieve at different ways and different things. So that's the only thing I can say. Like I said, I have no concept of what a miscarriage would feel like. The only thing is I do understand like when bad things have happened to me. Again, there was the helplessness was the hardest thing for me to deal with. Not that the bad thing happened, but that there was nothing I could do about it.
Yep.
And that was the hardest thing to accept.
Yep.
But once I did accept that, I still grieved, but it was easier, if that made sense.
Absolutely. There's parts that are like, and especially like with a miscarriage, I think the reason it can be really, really tough, and something I do talk about in the book too, is also Jackson's grieving as well. Like the husband is grieving the situation too, in a different way. But for the woman, it is not only the loss of the child, but it's also like a physical loss as well. So there's the emotional reminders and the mental reminders, and then there's also this physical situation that happens like in your body. And again, that sense of protectiveness and responsibility is both physical and emotional. So going through it's tough to compare one to the other. And so like we don't, or I don't, in my book I make it very clear that like these are different things. What they're experiencing are different things. They are connected, but like what they're going through are different things, and that is okay too. Like everybody is going through the situation, and not two people aren't going to have the same reaction to something. It's just like, as an author, you write a character, and even though you see it one way and you write it for the reader to see the character, you could have 5 people in a room, and those 5 people would draw 5 completely different characters. So you can't compare like 2 experiences, but you can say that there is a togetherness, that we can stand, like, as women who have gone through it, like we can say like, I see you, sis. I got you. Like, I know what you've been through. I understand it. And we're going to pay homage to it. So it's a big part of the book. It's the hardest part of the book. It probably is the hardest part of the series, to be honest, but it is really important, not just for the book. And I didn't want it to feel like drama fodder. I wanted it to feel like this is a real moment, and anybody in any real relationship, that has been together for a long amount of time, there's a difference between like the fun fluff that happens the first 3 months and when the relationship really gets to a real place and you have to go through something, either like grief or like a loss of a job, or something together. You have to climb a mountain together, and you have to find your way through it. So yeah, definitely wanted to tread lightly, but also not be like, we're not going to address this, because I felt like it was an amazing opportunity to give it some dignity to something that happens to 1 in 4 women. Sorry that got so heavy. It did not.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind. We'll get silly in a little bit. I will actually.
Of course. Yeah, we're gonna get silly.
I have 2 deeply personal questions left to ask, and then we will move on.
Ask
because I have talked to a couple women with miscarriages. Some of them still see that. Like there's one person I know. She said I had 3 living kids and 1 other. I had 4 kids. Some women still recognize that baby as theirs, even though they never saw a breath of air. There's still something in there. Others see it in other ways. I think but it occurred to me, and again, it's not something I will ever hope to understand. I don't have the equipment to ever find out for myself. But what I was thinking about in that was, so is that what you believe with your miscarriage, that you still had that kid that still could have lived their life?
That's tough.
Yeah.
I think to make my peace with it, it was easier for me to, just think that like they stayed with God, or were like they stayed there, and that we had them for a brief amount of time. But ours was so early compared to
Okay.
what
Yeah.
we'll go through, and it like that is such a hard question to like. I would never, as a woman, I would never hope to answer that question for all women everywhere,
No,
because you
I'm
know, like
asking.
it is like there's a religious aspect to it, there's a personal morality, there's just a personal identification and connection with, you know, that your baby.
Absolutely.
um and I think again, like that changes, especially based on, you know, how developed that was. Like fortunately for us, like we were pretty early, so even though it was really really hard, it was also easy to be like, okay, again, this is something that happens quite often. And a lot of women, like I would say that I think that they say that the number is even higher than 1 in 4, because a lot of women don't even know that they're pregnant when they miscarry. Because it is like there's so many things that can go wrong, that it, you know, some things are there for a minute and then they just don't take. Or, you know, something happens, or it just, whatever the case may be. But they think that that number may be even higher for how many women have actually experienced it, because not all of them know. Um, so I think there's a big difference between like those little moments for you. Like if you're really looking forward to that, like that was everything that you were looking for, I think the moment of conception is when that becomes like a baby for you, and like some, you know, so you would go through the whole process. But I also think that, you know, if you are 8.5 months and something terrible happens, like there, again, it's the physical component there too, on top of being all of the emotional and psychological ones too. So again, it's so hard to think about that. But I think for us, we were fortunate in that it
Mhm.
made the grieving process easier for me. But I think I could be again in a room with 4 women, and
Different answer. It would be a different
exactly
answer.
one of those women would say that, you know, the exact same point that we lost ours, for her it was as devastating
Yeah.
as losing it at eight and
Oh,
a half so
and I'm not trying to belittle. I kind of
oh
get a
no,
sense of
I didn't think that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I try and get your own sense
yeah,
of this. And lastly, and this is the last thing we'll talk about this, and then we will move on to
sure.
something a little less sillier, and that
No,
is
I again, like I love talking about it, because I think
no,
that
no.
it
I get it.
I think it deserves to be talked about.
And I have no problem talking about it, but I also know this too. This is something very personal for a lot of women as well. I don't want to feel like again, I don't want you to reach through the screen and punch my lights out either, right?
I would never, again, like
You never
the
know.
whole point of me deciding to put it in the book was because I wanted it to seem like, you know what, it's okay to talk about it. Because it's the same thing with like postpartum depression. There's so many women that go through it that are like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be upset that I lost my baby at 6 weeks. I shouldn't be upset. I shouldn't be upset. And they belittle themselves and break themselves down, or like, I don't want to talk about this because it's just going to bum everybody out. But we need to talk about it, because that's how we
Sure.
heal. So yes, I'm sorry. That's my
No,
TED talk.
no,
Continue.
no,
What was your
no.
question?
That was no. This is fine. Like actually, with some you actually answered a little bit of it, but I'm going to ask it like this: good writers put themselves in every story, and this was a very personal part of you. Now that it's out there, how do you feel about it?
I could not be prouder. I
Mm-hmm.
could not. When I tell you, like, I had somebody ask me on a podcast, like, hey, you know, you write mafia romance. Is it really tough to write like the violent scenes? Or there's also like, I wouldn't call it like an assault, like a sexual assault scene. But there is a scene where like the ex-boyfriend is trying to get our main character's attention, and she's just like, no, go away from me, go away from me. And he like shoves her up against a wall, and it's aggressive. And like, you know, they were kind of asking me like, okay, you write these concepts and there's some torture scenes in there. I'm sure I'm on some government watch lists because of my Google search history. I have this, you're gonna laugh like that there's a little doll in there, but it has special meaning. But I have this mug that's like, I promise I'm not a serial killer, I'm a writer. I'm
Eh.
a like a fiction. I'm a
I don't judge anybody anymore. I've learned. No, I've learned.
but
I learned a long time ago that I'm not in your shoes.
right.
What the
Yeah,
fuck do I know? Right? No, and I
Still not
say
a
it, and I
serial
say it.
killer.
Well,
But when you say like that, to put myself in those shoes, I when I think about what was the toughest scene to write, that was the toughest. But it was because it was so personal.
Mhm.
I had to take breaks because I was sobbing the whole time I wrote it. Um, but I also again wanted to make that connection with readers, and it's something about like, and okay, I will get personal for a moment.
It's
I don't
okay.
know
What
if
you
I
want?
will ever be able to have children, but I have had two book children that will live on much longer than I will. And in so doing, with every book I write, whether it's fiction and about mafia and scary, sexy, dangerous mafia dons, there's an opportunity to teach something and to leave a lesson and touch someone in the process. So there's a responsibility that I feel to do that subtly with my work, and knowing that I address such a big topic and maybe found some solidarity and camaraderie with the 1 in 4 women that have been there. um if that makes one person feel seen and validated, and like, you know what, it's okay, I will get through this because this character got through it, um then it was all worth it. All of it was worth it, because that's how we get through some of the hardest things in our life. I had somebody tell me once, like, when you're going through something really hard, or if let's say you're really nervous, let's say you're going to go give a speech somewhere and you're like, oh my god, I'm so nervous, thinking about it like you are the main character in your story and having that degree of separation to be like, okay, well, how would I want my main character to respond and act? Having that like takes away some of that anxiety and fear. And it's kind of the same thing where, when I have that opportunity to talk about something, it's giving me the opportunity to reach someone through that main character. If someone connects with that main character and realizes, you know what, I'm not alone, or as alone as I feel right now, everything's going to be okay, then it was all worth it. So,
For what it's worth, I hope you take this in the context. I mean it. You're going to be an amazing mom someday. You really will be.
you are so sweet. Thank you.
No, you really will be. You'll be a great mom. Your
Thank
kids
you.
will your kids will drive you crazy in the best way, because you will see the best aspects of yourself and
Oh,
worst
God.
aspects of yourself
Oh,
at
yeah.
the same time. And but you will. Like, sincerely, I do believe you're going to have kids someday. I really really
Thank
do.
you.
I mean, it may right.
I I've reached the point that like if it happens, I'm okay.
Oh
And if not,
sure.
I will be the coolest aunt and I will have a menagerie of animals that my nieces and nephews
Yeah.
visit. And they'll be like, I want to
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
Auntie
No.
Nicole's house. Like that's my
No.
goal. But yeah,
I
you always have an opportunity to be a mother, whether it's to a pet or to an adopted child or a foster
well,
child
absolutely.
or to a niece or nephew or a child of a friend. So
But I do think you're gonna get it. Something just tells me on the inside you will get that chance. So and when you
well,
do,
thank
and
you.
when
I hope you're right.
yeah, and when you do, you'll be like, "Thanks, Josh," and you might even give
Thanks,
me like a
Josh.
"Thanks, Josh. Thanks. I can never sleep again." Right?
Yeah.
I need to be my co-host on
I
the show.
think
The
at
show.
that point I'll be in trouble because of all of the really big, loud gifts I have given to all of the parents of the children I love, like all of my friends and my nieces and
Oh,
like, yeah,
that
I'm gonna get the giant
I promise you.
teddy bear that sings
eh,
songs in the middle of the
eh,
night.
I promise you, they'll get you even better than you can imagine. They'll be like, you know what? We are entirely happy for you. By the way, they'll find they will
Right?
find
Yeah.
the most obnoxious, catchiest thing they
Oh
can.
God, yeah, yeah.
Right? They're gonna make your kid fall.
I gave my husband's best friend, his daughter, we gave her a giant, I mean like a 5 foot teddy bear. And I remember when we showed up for like her first birthday party and he answers the door and he's like, and it's just me holding the teddy bear, like teddy bear head. It rode in the back seat with us buckled in the whole time. Like it was a real thing. Like I know that we will get those gifts back.
Oh no,
So
I can picture his face when he saw you. It was happy and defeat. Like, why have you done this to me? What did
yep.
I ever
To
do to
be
you?
fair, it ended up being one of her favorite toys that she sat with and would read stories to, still to this day. So I
So
have
so
no regret. But I'm sure we will
no.
get one that lights up and sings to us in the middle of the night by itself, terrifying us.
No, it won't terrify your kid. That's the thing. Your kid,
It'll terrify us. That
it'll terrify you, but they don't
yeah.
care about you. That's the
My
whole
mom
point.
gave us like a dog toy for my dog. I don't. It was like a really long time ago. There was I think it was an SNL skit called Mr. Bill, and like bad things happened to Mr. Bill, and he was always like, "Oh no!" She gave my dog a Mr. Bill, and so in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. when the whole house is completely silent, he picks up his Mr. Bill, and it's like, "Oh no!" And I'm laying there like, I should have gone to sleep an hour ago because now I am terrified.
So here's the deal. Like it'll be worse because your kid will like it, and therefore you'll have to
Of
listen to
course
it.
they would.
Yeah,
Of
you're
course.
right. You have to listen to it over and over again. Like my worst nightmare if I ever do have kids someday myself is this. They're gonna find a stupid show on television. Like it'll be stupid, and I will think, oh my god, and they will watch it nonstop to the
Yep.
point that I myself will have everything memorized. And I'll be like, my kids, I love my kids because I wouldn't do this for anybody else. I would have killed anybody else. My
Right.
kids. And there'll be like
Kids,
tears.
you're gonna listen to 45 episodes of Frozen. You're gonna listen, let it go forever. Forever you'll listen to it. But even if your girlfriend or wife got in the car and was like, "Hey, can I listen to Frozen again?" You'd be like, "No."
No.
You
But like
listened to it once this month, and your kid's like, "Can we listen to Frozen again?"
and
Okay,
you're
fine.
like, yes.
Yes, we can.
Why is Daddy
If I ever meet
crying?
Elsa, I'm pushing her down a blanket.
Yeah, no. At that point, like I'd be like, you guys sit. I tell my wife, you got to drive. Why? I need to cry. Why is
Yep.
Daddy crying?
Yep.
Just you broke it.
Well, my
You
husband,
broke.
my best friend's husband had like the best idea. He like when his son was, he's one, right? So you can either watch Bluey or Teletubbies or Frozen, or you could just watch whatever crime show you wanted to watch because he's just going to be fascinated by what's happening on TV and not have any concept of what's happening. So he would just watch stand-up comedy and, kids just listening to people laughing and, the guy talking and he's animated and kid doesn't know any different. So he got to watch, he's like, I just watch whatever I want to watch. She'll put on, it's like, your best friend will put on like Bluey or Teletubbies or whatever, but I'm watching what I want to watch. And the kid now like will literally just watch anything that's on TV. Like you could have the public library syndicate on repeat. And he would just be like, totally fine. Not like, I'm gonna lose my mind if I don't watch Elsa.
He'd be totally fine, possibly comatose, because that would put me to sleep as well. Well, it's like, but it just no, it's like what happens. Like I made my kid watch the tax channel. He got really confused with the tax forms like the rest of us, and like us, we just fell asleep and pretended they didn't exist. Right? Yeah, so right, that's pretty much it, right? Oh man. Yeah. Your friends that were parents are going to get you good. They just are.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So
yeah.
karma always comes back around.
Yeah,
always.
they're gonna get you. They're gonna get you good. They're gonna be like, I am so happy for you. By the way, here you go.
I know they will, because if this was reversed, I would do it exactly the same to them. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, thank you so much for the giant 5-foot singing bear. Here's yours. This one also lights up. Like, or
no, there's going to be escalation. Absolutely,
there's escalation. Of course, there's escalation.
Yeah, because see, they're like, you put me through a little bit of hell, and I remember what you did to me. So I want to make sure I think your kid will make you suffer just fine with what if I want you to suffer just a little more, so that you think just never ever do that to me again. Right. And then the escalation comes down. It'll be a fire exploding piñata. It comes to the door to actually sing some kind of mariachi song. right? It just and explodes into nothing but sugar candies. That way your kids are sugar high. See, that's my ultimate strategy to somebody else's kids. I get them all hyped up, and then I let the parents deal with them, and I go home.
Oh yeah, my dad's already said, like, when your kids come over, they are getting pizza and pixie sticks and ice cream and candy, and then, you know, like, I will babysit your children. However, you're getting them back completely under sugar high. So
yeah, fair warning. Like, you've been warned up front. Like, we are going to sabotage you the way we've been sabotaged, because this is just how life works, right?
Right.
And if you aided to the sabotaging, we remember there's a list. Parents are meaner than mobsters that way. They really
are. Yeah. Yes, and certainly more devious, I think. Because it's intentional. And a mobster wouldn't hurt their own family, but your parents would be like,
no. Mobster would no. A mobster would do it too. No.
No, not to their own family. Well, not in my
no. They'd
hurt somebody else's family, but not their family.
No. I would go so far as to say, see, if I know my friend Sal has a kid, I'm gonna spoil him rotten too. They're human beings. They're gonna do the same stuff. The only difference is, right, it's the tactics the mobsters use. See, they wouldn't use the same tactics against somebody else if they were enemies. But friends, they might even be worse. They might be the worst of all. They might be like, I love family too. Me too. So let me give you what I was given from all the cousins.
Yep. Escalation.
That's right. No, we it's all about the escalation, ladies and gentlemen. We are sadistic to our friends. We really, really, really are. Yes. So let's see here. Last time we talked, we were talking about some of the adventures into the unknown. I wanted to get there here again because because I was just
54 minutes later.
Wait.
It's just because it's good conversation. Just good.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not in any like tonight. I'm not in any hurry. Now you might be, and if that's the case, I totally get it. But I mean, I'm not really in a hurry tonight. And honestly, like I said, like after the day I had, it's like, I could use a little cheering. But that's like, and so let's have a conversation. Yeah,
I'll be
yeah. So here's the thing. You mentioned, like, so folks, if you didn't hear, it was Ignite. I believe was one of them. Ignite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about like the idea of good guys and bad guys, and how mobsters are the other side of the coin compared to the law-abiding citizens and choices we make. And we dabbled with this a little bit last time, but then things just had to go, which is like, what does Nicole Fanning believe is like how the world works? So because she's like, I'm scared now. Scared now.
How the world works or how it should work, those are different questions. But I would say, like, my characters in my book, and as Jackson kind of explains it, he addresses it in a way that, like, the mafia, they do bad things, but they do bad things because someone else has decided they are bad things. Yes. And what I mean by that is, like, they obviously work in, like, drug cartels and prostitution rings and things like that. And basically, as he describes it, like, they are bad things because the government has said you can't do these things. Now, has the government said so because there's, negative consequences for those decisions? Yeah. If you do a bunch of drugs, you could have a great time. You could also die, or you could hurt someone else in the process. But our mobsters in my book, they believe in the freedom of choice at the end of the day, regardless. So that's half of their coin. The other half of their coin is that they see the system as it is set up with those restrictions, with those, good and bad, white and black decided for the world, as like predator and prey. So Jackson is given, he's our Don Supreme, which means that there are several mafia syndicates in the city of Chicago. The Don Supreme is the Don with the most powerful mafia family that gets to make the final decision, and all the other Dons can fall in line. So, one is elected Don, and his family has been elected Don for multi-generations because they've held power for so long. But he gets to decide how to run the underworld, how to deal out a different kind of justice, um, as he sees fit by providing a service to the government. So the example that he gives is like, if you had a mayor that was running for a re-election campaign and their campaign was, let's, we're going to be tough on crime and we're going to clean up the streets. Well, if you wanted, you could have all of the streets everywhere cleaned up within a week. Like, if you wanted them completely cleaned up. But what happens when they're completely cleaned up? Then you have all of these drug rehab programs, all of these, police officers that don't have work to do. So you need the predators need the prey the same way that like the prey can't be too plentiful, that, there's not enough predators. So it just goes hand in hand. And in Ignite, we see that there is a high society gentleman that is just doing some really awful things. And likely, if they were to take him through the court system and the traditional way that they would get justice, the girl that he had been doing those horrible things to wouldn't get justice. He would get off. He'd get a slap on the wrist. He would get sent home with a, oh, don't be a bad boy. But with Jackson allows for a different kind of justice. And what he kind of says to Natalie is like, we are bad men, but we're bad men that are keeping worse men in check. Like, it takes bad men to keep worse men in check. So that's kind of the world we've created. But that's also because we have to love our morally great characters. We have to find a reason that we can, relate to them and understand. Did I create this world because I think that some of this goes on behind the scenes? Yeah. I think that anything is possible. And I think that most of us are happy with our ignorance is bliss, and we wouldn't want to see the other side of the coin. But do I think it goes on to the extent that I describe in my books? Maybe not, but it's fun to just toy with that idea. It's the same reason we love sci-fi or, fantasy in any way. Kind of the same idea. This is just a more real aspect of like, this could be happening. So hopefully that answers your question.
So I got an old Japanese puzzle. An evil comes, and it will devour all good people. So do you do a little evil to destroy a greater evil? Or do you let evil do nothing and let evil do this? Either way, evil remains. Right? So your answer, right? And the nature of that is, and this is something I've younger me would have been a lot more like, this is good and right and just. But what I realize in this world and just the way it is, those considered those bad or terrifying qualities aren't always bad or terrifying, right? I look at the fact that, okay, look at the whole idea of a cop or a military guy serves in the military. They're coming from the best of places for the most part. But on the flip side, they're dealing with shitty people. If they're too nice to these shitty people, the shitty people will walk all over them. Right? Authority, a badge, power means nothing without the character of the person using it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I realize is these so-called negative qualities have positive uses. So I think it actually makes us more well-rounded. The real question, I think, is, can we control those impulses in ourselves? That's the real battle, I think.
So it's weird that you say this, because this is also a scene in my book. At the end of Catalyst, Natalie is put in a situation where, she's either going to die or she's going to kill someone. And mm-hmm. So she obviously is still alive. So we know what happens there, but she's dealing with that decision. And mm-hmm. Jackson kind of explains to her, like, who you are when your back is against the wall is not always like an accurate depiction of who you are as a person. He's like, but at the same time, because like that's a decision that it's like your back is against the wall. So like you are like a cornered, wounded animal that would normally, you know, be kind and sweet in general. You know, like you can have the sweetest dog in the world. If that dog gets hurt, you know, or wounded or is confused in any way, that dog could still bite you.
Mm-hmm. Dog will
And
bite you.
yes. And so what he kind of says is like, we tend to think of the world in black and white, but nobody is really black and white. Everybody is just different shades of gray. Not to say like 50 Shades of Gray, but we are all some mixture of gray, and it fluctuates. It depends on where we are in the time. It depends on our background. You know, I think it goes back to that whole idea that like villains, true villains, aren't like, they don't just appear, they're made. Like, you know, people who have been in situations that have seen that, and you know, who we want to be and who we are is always going to be like in combat. It should be. You should always be trying to grow and try to be better. So you can't say like, oh, I'm, you know, 75% good and 25% bad. Tomorrow it could be completely different numbers. And as you said, every single day is an opportunity to make a different choice. And it's our choices is like a reoccurring theme throughout both of my books, throughout the entire series, is that our choices is, you know, what defines us. Because it's our choices that will move us forward and create new situations for us. And we have to live with the ramifications of whatever those choices were. Now, do we have the opportunity to do better, to, you know, flip the script and, you know, change the percentage? Absolutely. But you have to be willing to make different choices. So I don't know if, I don't know. I think, you know, we all have the potential for good and we have the potential for bad. It's the whole idea of like, which side do you feed?
Well, I'm gonna add an interesting thought, because I think ultimately this is about. I've said this many a time on my show. I don't know if you've listened to my show very much since we last talked. I'm almost assuming
I've listened to it a few times, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I've said is at the end of the day, we all do what we want to do. The real question is this: are we making a conscious or unconscious decision about what we want to do? The conscious decision is when you can look at all the facts. You again, we don't see everything. None of us are capable of that. But what we do see is we can look at a situation and make a choice accordingly, right? What we see, what we stand, where we don't stand, that kind of deal. So, and that to me is very much that's what it's about. So one of my favorite card games of all time is called Shadowverse. They have the main character. They have a story mode. One of the conflicts, one of the main characters was he has this curse that makes him turn into a dragon.
Right.
So he fights this incredibly strong vampire who's another main character. He goes, "Why are you trying to hold this back?" But it's evil. So that's not how you master something. He goes, if you want to make this something different than what it was, you can't fight this part of yourself. You have to let it out. But he says the secret is this: you can control how much of it you let out. You can control it, right? You don't necessarily have to let it take you over, but you have to let it out, or you'll never do this. You'll always be enslaved to your curse.
Right.
So he took the character's advice. He still has the curse, but now the curse is very much a part of him. It's not a detriment anymore. He doesn't become this monster. He controls how he transforms now. That doesn't mean I'm sure there is still a part of him that can go full berserker mode, but it doesn't happen now, right?
Right.
I tend to equate wants. Like not all my wants are pure. Sometimes I look at a woman, I would think, damn, I would love to, take her home. That's not always the most noble of thoughts, but I mean, it's a human thought, right? Not always the most.
I don't know if I'm going to comment on that one.
Well, no. Again, I would be lying to you if I said to you that thought has never crossed my mind. I'd be
Right.
full of shit,
Right?
You wouldn't believe me, and I wouldn't believe me either, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, right? I'm being honest about something. So here's the flip side of that. Okay. So what I've learned as I've gotten older is I still will. I mean, that impulse in of itself is not a crime. What I do with it can be, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So, for example, I
It's
can
the same thing
choose
with like feelings and you can't always control how you feel about something, but you can control how you respond to it.
exactly. So here's the thing. So, and this now again, younger me was an idiot. Older me is a little smarter, right? Right. So I don't I'm honest about what I think. I'm pretty open. So now now the beautiful thing about that is if you play your cards right, you can get away with saying just about anything. Right? You can get away with saying anything you want. It's how you respect the person you're trying to pursue. And this is something that hit me when I got older. Can I hold a conversation with you? Can you hold a conversation with me? Are you interesting? Do I want to talk to you for hours on end?
Right.
If I feel that way, right? Well, then
That's for true attraction. Yeah, you can be attracted to like the look of someone,
yeah.
but like whether or not you're attracted to their mind, their personality, their morality,
Well,
their
thing is,
intelligence.
in your younger days, it's not always what you're looking for, and vice
Right.
versa. Go say the same with women too. Women don't
Right.
necessarily look for these qualities at a younger age either. They're sometimes they're just like guys. Hey, let's go get laid, have a good time. Here's the flip side to that. When you get older, you realize, okay, that was fun. Now what? Right?
Right. Well, you've
Right?
learned you've lived a little, you've learned a
Yeah.
little, you've gotten, it's all about context, right? Like
Yeah,
you
exactly.
didn't have any context when you're young and green, but as you've gotten older and you realize like, okay, just because someone looks good doesn't mean that they're respectful, that they're kind, that they're thoughtful, considerate, generous, like all the things that I want, like ultimately in a partner that I'm going to be with until the end of time. That makes a difference. And so it's
Mhm.
context. You've gotten some context, and again, it boils down to choices. And
Mhm.
when
Absolutely.
I think about like my book series, that was like a reoccurring theme that I wanted to be a big deal was, again, like we're not all good or bad, and what we are is based on our choices. So
Absolutely. I would go so far to say something I've come to terms with too, because again, if you look at historically speaking, laws in themselves aren't moral. They're neither moral or immoral. They're just laws, right?
right.
Now, folks, I'm not advocating breaking the law and doing chaos and mayhem. That's not my point. Here's the point. I think you can look at people who have done very questionable things to themselves or to others, and they may not be the same people down the road, or maybe like there's a lot more to it. One of my favorite books. Have you ever read Robin Hobb?
Mm-mm.
She has a pirate series, right?
Okay.
Right. She has a pirate series, and it's awesome because one of the things going on is in that series, you get to see pirates as people, and what you find in that is they care about a lot of the same things we care about. Just life and circumstances have kind of put them in these situations where they end up doing these nefarious things and and we're like, and human beings are the same everywhere. We get used to something,
Right.
we'll just keep doing it. It's just who we are.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
not.
yeah. No, you get into habits. Habits are a completely different conversation to choices. If you have
Oh, absolutely.
habits or repeated behavior, absolutely.
Habits start from choices. They
Yeah.
always do, right? So you have to be conscious of these things. And what I've learned is like, and also doing things like this show has taught me I no longer judge people. I try not to judge people too much because I realize I'm not in their shoes. I realize I don't I'm seeing a glimpse of a bigger picture.
Right.
Even right, the biggest monsters I've ever seen in life, some of the dark, like some people with the biggest past and histories, some of them are some of the kindest people I've ever met. And some of the most squeaky clean people, they're dicks. Like they're the biggest assholes I've ever met in my life.
Oh, well, I mean, it's that old adage of like, you know, sometimes people, the nicest people you'll ever meet are people with tattoos, and sometimes like the meanest people you'd meet would be at church on Sunday, and that goes both ways. You could have some of the nicest people you'd ever meet would be at church on Sunday, and some of the meanest people you could ever meet would be with tattoos. None of like we're all unique beings, and we're all different percentages of that light and darkness, but I think making blanket statements and saying like we're all this or that, like we're not. None of us
No,
are.
no, no.
And I think it's also important to say you need the context. Like you need that, and we all grow, and we should all be growing based on those choices. So to say that someone used to be this way, so they'll always be that way, there's like nothing could be farther from the truth. Who I was at 16 and who I am at 33 are two completely different people. So, you know, and I'm happy for that. Like it's a merge of the both. I can't wait to see who I am at, let's do the math real quick, 49, uh, and see where we're at in another 16 years. But
Completely lack of giving a fucks. Probably with a teenager driving her crazy. And
hopefully, well, yeah, we'll
yeah.
see.
Well, again, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, right? If I
Thanks.
was,
I
yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
that. Appreciate the
yeah,
good juju.
yeah. So like that, and but yeah, no, like I said, it's yeah, we all change, we all evolve, we all. Hell, I'm not the same person I was at 35 that I am at 40, right?
Nope.
No, and like I said, I'm terrified what I'm gonna be like at like 50 because I barely give a fuck now. I'm probably gonna be like the biggest rule breaker. I'm gonna probably be like the biggest rule breaker. I like the. It's like, why are you doing this? Because I can and I want
I
to.
think as long as you are getting the same amount of joy and giving the same amount of joy, then you'll be fine.
Yeah,
That's, you know, or giving more, at least the same
yeah,
amount or more.
yeah. So, Miss Nicole,
Yes.
I think, I wish I had you a little longer than I do tonight because I always enjoy chatting with you.
I know it's always too short.
Yeah. So the next time you're ready to come back, well, you'll write for like. So next time it'll be something like Playboy. Like, yes, I made it.
Oh, well, I mean, I would add it to my resume at the same way I'm adding the National Enquirer with pride.
Hey, listen.
Because
Hey.
the content isn't as important as the amazing opportunity
It,
to be there. So, you know, just being able to write for them and you know, be a part of the magic that they create on a 4 million copies sold scale worldwide is just amazing. It's going to be
so
amazing no matter what.
yeah. So I was just about to point out. I don't know if you're a Ray Bradbury fan, but if you
Yes.
are, he wrote for
Yep.
Playboy. Yeah,
Oh,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Yep.
he wrote for so did Asimov, so did Heinlein, so did all
Yep.
these great all-time great writers. A
Yep.
lot of them wrote Playboy, so it's actually not an insult, right? But
Oh, no.
oh yeah,
Yeah, no, when I was given the opportunity, did not see it as an insult. I was so honored for the
yeah.
opportunity to be there. So,
So I guess the last question I'll ask before you disappear, because again,
sure.
you got this opportunity to go on this giant platform you never imagined you would. What's the dream? What's the one platform you're like, if I did it, it'd be like bucket list. Yes,
To
big time.
write for, uh,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, I don't know. Sky's the limit, really.
Sure. Sure.
But like I obviously I want to see like my book. There's gonna be 14 books in this series. There's 4 in this main series, but in the little mafia verse that we're creating, there'll be like 10 other smaller books. I would just love to see that like on a Netflix TV show series, or you know, become a movie or something like that. That'd be great. But you know, I will treat every opportunity with like the same excitement.
Sir, but okay. So then this will be the last thing I say, and then we get to all the plugs. Put
Sure.
it out in the ether. Here's something. So I'll tell you the last story, then we'll go for it. Earlier
Sure.
this month, I wasn't sure my check was late for one of the jobs I did, and I was like, oh shit, I need to get money. So I asked people out there, and I literally got 3 freelancing jobs, bang, 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 in all
Right.
different orders, right? On top of everything else I've been doing. And I've been doing and then I end up getting a 4th freelancing gig. So, I mean, I've had a busy month, but like this month's been pretty busy for me. Now, next month I'm going to have to work on making it busier with the things that have happened, but that's okay,
Yeah.
right? That's life. Here's my question. But the thing is, it's by putting it out there in the ether, right? Sometimes good things happen. So this is what I'm going to put out in the ether. Nicole Fanning, you will have kids and they will drive you nuts and you will love every second of it. First and foremost. The second thing foremost, Netflix or an equivalent there, maybe Amazon, maybe who the hell knows, will look at your book series and say it is the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? And it will pick you up. And the reason I'm going to say it specifically like that, I have this little rule of life. The more specific you are with your goals, the more possible it is to achieve them, because now they're no longer these fantasies. Then now, okay, I want to get on Netflix. How do I do that? Now it becomes a problem you can solve. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the idea of if you're looking for the door, you'll find it.
Yeah, exactly. So may you find the doors you want to find. May you kick all kinds of ass doing
and
it.
And in reciprocation, may you find exactly the opportunities that you're looking for, and just, one door closes, another one opens, and maybe it's a bigger, better door to a mansion, and it's amazing.
That's just the only thing I'll say, that the odd thing is, I'm very confident something great's going to happen to me next month. I'm not sure what it is.
Yep.
But I've had this faith. I
can tell. I can hear it in your voice, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, no, I have this faith in that. It was weird, and then we'll get to the point. I had the last because I realized you do have to go. The last when I went back into freelancing again, the second time, like the first year, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna fuck this. What if I fuck this up? This time around, it's been like, you're going to succeed. That's literally has been in my head. Like, it's no longer, am I gonna fuck this up?
Yep.
I've burned that bridge behind me. There's nothing for me to go back to. It's now, you're going to go forward. You're going to have a lot of good things happen to you. Enjoy the ride. Trust the process, even though it's an unknown. Like right now, I couldn't tell you 2 months from now if I'm going to be here, if I'm going to be back in Calgary, if I'm going to be somewhere else. I have no idea. Right. But I'm also in this really odd space of, it's going to work out. You're going to find what you need, and don't worry about it. And maybe that I am the absolutely batshit craziest motherfucker.
No, I love it. That's what I've said since the start of this year, is I've had this feeling. I'm like, this is the year. This is good things are coming. This is exciting. And we've been, really just making that happen and making it a reality. You make, think of what you bring about, what you think about, you bring about. So
good fortune. So you should plug your book. You should plug your book here so people can find it. So
okay, yeah. So my latest book 2, is called Ignite. There you go. Put it back.
There you go.
Yeah. I was like, I gotta go backwards. So it's called Ignite, and you can find it on Amazon and Kindle. It's free actually on Kindle Unlimited, and it's in paperback on Amazon. I also have a website at N as the letter N, andherownwords.com. And I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and the Book of Faces as well. So
okay. So hold on a second here. In her own words.com.
andherownwords.com. Yep.
Okay. Let's see if I got this right. I'm a trained I am. Is that it? Is this it? Did I get it right?
That's it. Yep.
Woo-hoo!
Perfect.
I almost know what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen. Trained motherfucking professional. I am.
There you go. Right? You killed it. You killed it, Josh, right. As always.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Don't tell anybody.
I love it. I love it.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for having me back. It's been such a pleasure to be here. As always.
Just stick around for one more minute here, because there's a little bit of business I gotta take care of. Then I gotta ask you 2 requests off the air. So, for everybody watching, everybody listening, this is my latest release. This is Alice 1. Alice in Wonderland is Greek mythology. Alice is Pandora. Alice, it basically chases the Queen of Hearts over the edge of the world and ends up in the Greek underworld. There she has to play Jason of the Argonauts, a game of croquet. In the labyrinth of the underworld, Alice and company encounter gods, monsters, and perhaps the most terrifying thing of all, themselves. Written by yours truly, illustrated by Kenzie Carr. It is available now. This is my Twitch channel. Hit the like, follow button here if you want to support the show. I want to thank Nicole for coming back. We'll get to do this again, hopefully someone again. I actually don't know who my next guest is going to be. I'm going to have like a drink and draw kind of like impromptu sometime this weekend. I'm gonna look for
There you
somebody
go.
because well, I was supposed to be interviewed tomorrow on another show, but that didn't happen. So now I'm kind of like, okay, I might as well just get another guest somewhere. Beyond that,
There you go.
guys, stay inspired, keep shining in the dark. Go get Nicole's book. It's awesome. And take care of
All right.
yourselves, guys.